So we have a couple of people here. I think some of you may know who I am. I'm Lisa McLaughlin. I'm the Educator Preparation Coordinator for USBE, and I have also been overseeing the Grow Your Own grant. And Shalise Oldroyd is also been helping us out here. She's been really helpful in all of our managing documents and things. And we're trying to help her transition to other work that she has. We technically don't have a dedicated staff member for this grant, but we're trying to manage as best we can. So right now, you're welcome to direct questions to the Grow Your Own email, and we will respond as soon as we can. We're also trying to train some additional staff members. We have Liz Bernfeld, who we've hired recently, there's Liz. And she also works in educator preparation and is going to be helping us out on this grant. And am I sharing the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that might be, oh, no. Sorry, I usually like to do introductions at the beginning, and we didn't put it at the beginning, but that's okay. So we have a couple people that are working that can help answer questions. So feel free to send your questions to the Grow Your Own educator inbox. So it's growyourown.educator@schools.utah.gov, and we will answer those as soon as we can. We've had quite a slew of questions come in recently, so we'll try and get caught up in this week. But we're excited to be doing another year of this program. We've had 3 previous cohorts that I think most of you have participated in, and we received additional funding from the legislature, one-time funds of about $7 million that we're going to use to fund cohort 4. And that will be for fiscal years 26 and 27. Our cohorts have traditionally been 2-year cohorts. And so you'll receive funding for those 2 years that you can use to pay for paraprofessionals, school counselor assistants, school counselor candidates, school psychologist candidates, school social worker candidates, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. According to the state code, the funds can be used for tuition, books, fees, certification exams, FTE and stipends for mentors and school counselor assistants. And we'll also talk a little bit more about the details of that as well. Okay, so changes from previous cohorts. There actually weren't any new policy changes from last year to this year, but they were changes since the program started. So if you're like you started and then you left and then you came back, you may not be aware of the changes. But school social workers and school psychologists were added to the grant in 2023. And we have opened, since we were getting on, it's not ongoing funding, but we seem to be getting it periodically. So we are offering additional funds to candidates who may have participated in a previous cohort and didn't finish their education. So we're allowing candidates to participate up to 3 total fiscal years, which may extend over multiple cohorts. And so if they have participated in cohort 3 for 2 years, they could do 1 more year in cohort 4. And there will be a question in the application for that. Also, if they participated as like a school counseling assistant, and now they want to be a school counseling candidate, then that would allow for that. But they can only do 3 total years in the program. So if they switch candidate types, it still is only 3 years total. And then FTE funding, the $9,000 is for the LEA, so they get reimbursement for paying for salaries. And originally it was just 1 semester, but you can get 9,000 for 2 semesters. We went back and that actually wasn't a change in policy. It was just a change in interpreting the code. So for student teaching, generally that's only a semester, but if they're doing school social work, school psychologists, they do like a year-long clinical experience, and they can get 9,000 for each semester for max of 2 semesters. Okay, so if you were participating in cohort 3, here's some deadlines that are coming up. So all of your cohort 3 funds must be spent by June 30th, 2025. And we are looking to basically, because it's a reimbursement system in Utah grants, so it has to be spent by June 30th. And then all of your reimbursement requests have to be submitted in Utah grants by July 14th. The reason why we're doing that is because any money that is not spent by June 30th or reimbursed is going to be reappropriated for cohort 4. And so we need to know how much money didn't get spent so that we can divvy it out to other LEAs. And if you had lump sum funds from a previous cohort, like cohort 1 and 2, that also have not gotten spent, we are going to be invoicing LEAs to get that money back if it did not get spent. So watch for that. So that everything, all of the money is going to be going through Utah grants as a reimbursement request. Any questions on that so far? Oh, we also have the end of year cohort report due on July 14th. And we've sent out instructions on that. So if you have questions, let us know. Not seeing any hands. You're welcome to raise your hand or just unmute yourself, or if you want to
There are
drop your
no
questions in the
questions in
chat.
the Q&A box yet.
Oh, we did the Q. Okay. Yeah. So feel free to drop them in the Q&A. I don't have the chat. I haven't done Q&A for a while. Let's see if
I'll
I can
manage
pull it.
that for you. It's okay.
You've got it? Okay. Thank you, Shalise.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to cohort 4. So the grant application opened up in Utah Grants last Friday. And, oh, whoops. I apologize. So, announcement. We did get some feedback for some LEAs that due to vacations and things, that it would be better if the deadline for the application was June 20th. So we did extend the deadline in Utah Grants to June 20th, but I did not update the slides. We did update our website though. So I will change the slides. But anybody watching this.
Changed. We'll post the updated version on the website. Sorry.
Awesome. So the application is now due on June 20th at 5 p.m. and Utah Grants will not allow you to submit it late. So make sure you get it in by Friday, June 20th at 5 p.m. And then you also have to attach the application to that. It will not allow you to submit your application unless you have your attachment. And then we'll talk about what that attachment needs to include in just a minute. But then we will be reviewing those applications in July and let people know that what they've been awarded. In the past, we have had more requests for funding than we have money to give. So it is possible that some people will not get awarded. But we do have a criteria that we look for that we've shared with you in the grant application. So you can see what it is that we're looking for and which applications usually score pretty high. But we also have 2 reviewers on each application. So we have quite a process to review those applications that hopefully will be beneficial for everybody who applies. And then in October, if you are grant awarded funds for cohort 4, there will be an accountability report due in October. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, so who completes the application? We get a lot of requests from individuals that say, hey, I'm, enrolled in this program. Oh, yeah, sorry, Louie. Louie is our Utah Grants manager. He's going to help us with technical questions about Utah Grants. I did go in and extend the application deadline for the program in Utah Grants. So hopefully I did that right. And now it says June 20th. He's going to check it for me, right, Louie? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me check on that, of course.
Okay. Thank you, Louie. Okay, so who completes the application? The LEA needs to complete the application, or the regional service centers for the purposes of this bill. Our regional service centers are also LEAs. The regional service centers can also qualify for administrative funds, but LEAs cannot. So everything that you apply for needs to go towards candidate expenses. There's no overhead, there's no, what's that term?
No indirect costs are
Indirect
allowed.
costs, thank you, are allowed for LEAs. And then, but individuals cannot apply. So if you have somebody who wants a scholarship, they have to apply through the LEA. So they have to have an association with an LEA. They need to be employed in an LEA. And then hopefully your LEA has some kind of an application process where you track these individuals to decide who you're going to give money to. So that's what we tell them if they want to participate. So they need to contact their LEA to participate.
Sorry, just going back to the application deadline. So your
Mhm.
announcement may say 6/16, but it is 6/20, just to let you know. So the announcement may not have updated while we submitted it, but it is, like Lisa said, June 20th.
Awesome. Thank you for checking that.
Sorry
Appreciate
for
it.
sorry for interrupting.
No, that's great. Okay, so applications are accessed through Utah Grants as a competitive grant program. The program is titled 26 PQA Grow Your Own Educator Cohort 4. And we do have links here for frequently asked questions and the scoring rubric. And then applications that are not submitted by the deadline or don't have the completed attachment will not be reviewed. And applications submitted via email will not be accepted. So in the past, we've asked you to submit those via email. This year, we're not going to be accepting those. So make sure you get it submitted through Utah Grants, and then we'll review it. Any questions on that? Okay. The application itself is very similar to previous years. We did not change any of the questions. There are a couple of different sections. I believe section A is just general information about your LEA, contact information, that sort of thing. And then section B is where the majority of our review process will land. But you're going to be answering questions about your LEA's need for strengthening your educator pipeline, what your capacity is for supporting grow your own candidates, and then recruitment strategies that you use to increase the diversity of educator candidates or have identified candidates that need scholarship. You're welcome to fill that out using the template that's been provided in the application. So you just download the link or the document in the application, fill it out, and then resubmit it and attach it to your application when you submit it in Utah Grants. So
And
you can
Lisa,
submit it as, yes.
I would say as a doc is preferred if you
Okay.
can, so that as we're trying to help with calculations or with information that would maybe go into a report later in the year, a doc is more helpful format.
Great. That's good to know. I think in the application, it talks about signing it because you're submitting it in Utah Grants and there's already a verification process in Utah Grants, that signature part is not as important. So as long as, so a doc format is great. And then, or a PDF is also acceptable. So just to keep in mind, in the board rule, there are very clear limits on the amount of money that candidates can receive each year. So as you're filling out your application, the section C is the specifics about candidates, what type of candidate they are, how much money they're requesting. For the application, it's not required to fill that out, but we do give preference to applications who have specific candidates in mind that they want to give money to. So your application will get higher scores if you have names of candidates and how much money you think they're going to need. So, but that information can change. And then for in the board rule, it says paraprofessional candidates in an undergraduate program can have up to $12,000 a year to pay for tuition, books, fees, and certification exams. School counselors, school psychs, and anybody enrolled in a master's program can go up to 14,000. And then stipends for school counselor assistants can go up to 7,000, and then 9,000 for FTE assistants. And the FTE, so basically it's a match type thing. So your LEA has to provide at least 0.35 of the FTE, and then the 9,000 can cover that much. But
Okay.
even if
The
the
LEA
9,000,
covers the 0.15, correct?
yes, 0.15, yes. I don't know why that doesn't add up to 1, but I guess it adds up to 0.5. So,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, because it's per semester. Got it. All right. And then what was I going to say? Now I forgot. It's okay. Even if their 0.35 exceeds 9,000, so whatever they're getting paid normally, if their pay is more than 9,000 per 0.35, unfortunately, we can only pay up to 9,000. So just keep that in mind. Any questions on that so far? Okay. Now, here's the definitions. I think this is the majority of questions we get is I have so-and-so who is in this situation and would they qualify for grant funds? So these definitions are going to be really important because usually we just end up copying and pasting the definition and saying, you know, yes or no. So paraprofessional means an individual who works with students in an LEA as a paraprofessional or in a similar teaching assistant position and is not professionally licensed to teach. Paraprofessionals need to have been employed in the LEA for at least 1 year. However, there is an exception that you can do up to 20% that says if they haven't been employed in the LEA, if they have been employed as a paraprofessional in another LEA or another school district, then you can count them as part of your 20% exception. So we've been interpreting the 20% exception as per application. So, so if you've got 5 paraprofessionals, one of them can be not have been employed in your LEA for a year. And then for teacher candidates, this means that the candidate was a paraprofessional who was awarded a scholarship and was offered employment as a teacher before the teacher completed training to become a professionally licensed teacher and is working as a teacher for the same LEA where they previously worked as a paraprofessional and was awarded the scholarship. So what we've seen sometimes is that people are already working as teachers before they get awarded the scholarship, and unfortunately they will not qualify. But if they were working as a paraprofessional and were awarded the scholarship as a paraprofessional, then they can be hired as a teacher and still receive grant funds. And they also have to have been employed in the LEA for a year as a paraprofessional unless they're part of the 20% exception. Any questions on that so far?
We had one in the Q&A, but I shared similar language to what you just covered, so thank you for reiterating.
Great. And then those are for teacher candidates or paraprofessional candidates. For school counselors, we have kind of 2 definitions of school counselors. One is the assistant, where they may be enrolled in like a psychology bachelor's program. Usually it's if they're getting their bachelor's degree and they're in a program that's related to school counseling, but not school counseling. And they're interested in becoming a school counselor, so they decide to do their clinical experiences in a school counseling office under the direction of a licensed school counselor. Then they can get a stipend for that. So the stipend is to kind of help pay for their time while they're doing work in the office, and it's just a flat stipend for the year. For school counseling assistants, they have to be enrolled in an accredited school counseling master's degree program and completing their clinical experiences in your LEA. So that is where some of our questions come in, like, can they be enrolled in this program? Can they be enrolled in that program? Usually the answer is yes, as long as it's accredited and it leads to a Utah license, which we have interpreted to be if they're going to get a license in their state, like if it's not a Utah program, but they're going to get a license in their state and can then through, our license equivalency review process could get a license in Utah, then that's fine. But there are a lot of programs out there that don't lead to a license in their state or are not accredited, so we do have to watch for those. And they do have to be completing clinicals in your LEA. And then school psychologists is similar, is that they have to be enrolled in an accredited school psychology program and completing their clinical experiences in your LEA. This is where it gets a little bit tricky because usually people don't have multiple school psychologists, but it does say they have to be done, it has to be done under the supervision of a licensed school psychologist. So you either have to already have one on staff or you have to have a partnership with a service provider that can help mentor that psychologist in your LEA. And same with school social workers. There was a question, this is where Bethany would be helpful, but we get a lot of questions like, what if they're enrolled in this program that's similar to school psychology, but it's not school psychology? That doesn't count. They have to be in a school psychologist program or a school social worker program to qualify. Even if they're, it's similar program, but it has to lead to a license. Okay, so for the application, it would be, we would like to see the candidate's name, their candidate type. So you pick one of those different options, and then how much funding you anticipate they're going to need, when you think they're going to be finished, and then do you have a mentor assigned to them? We'll talk about mentors in just a minute. And then by October 17th is when we need your accountability report. And in that accountability report, we're going to verify that, yes, the candidate is going to continue in the program. There's also questions that we ask about, did they apply for other financial assistance? Were they employed in your LEA for a year? What's their pathway to get a license? We want to know the specifics, like which institution they're enrolled in, what the program is called, and then where in your LEA they're going to do their clinical experience. If you are an LEA that only has one school, then you can just put that school. So. Mentors. So the program will pay for stipends for mentors. And these amounts are in board rules, so we can't go over them. But the idea is that somebody who is mentoring 1 to 2 candidates can have up to $500 a year for a stipend. And if they're mentoring 3 to 4 candidates, they can get $700 for the year. And then if they're supervising 5 candidates, they can get $1,000 for the year. Each mentor cannot supervise more than 5 candidates in this program. And what is a mentor? So there's a very specific definition of mentor, and they do have to meet this definition to get a stipend. And it means the educator selected in the consultation with the candidate's principal, who has a professional educator license and license area in the field for which the educator is mentoring, and has no less than 3 years of full-time experience in the appropriate license area, has effective or highly effective evaluations in accordance with board rule R277323, has proven success in positively improving student outcomes, and follows all applicable supervision and mentoring requirements from the candidate's educator prep program and board rule R277308. Mentor teachers also model the use of high leverage teaching practices that meet the needs of diverse learners, demonstrate content and grade level expertise, and effectively collaborate with colleagues, families, and the broader community as defined in board rule R277320. So basically, they need to have a professional license in the license area of the candidate they're mentoring. So school counselors need to mentor school counselors. They need to have at least 3 years of experience, and they need to be deemed as highly effective according to board rules. Is kind of what it is. Now, if for some reason you don't have somebody who can mentor that meets that definition, number one, they can't get a stipend. But we do want to see that candidates are getting mentored because that is very important for the program. So, or if you decide that you do have somebody who is mentoring and does meet the definition, but you don't want to request funding for them because you have other funding sources that you can provide a stipend for them, we do ask that you do put that information in your application and your accountability report so that we know that these candidates are getting mentored somehow, somewhere, even if they're not getting funding from the program, because that is important for their success in the program. Any questions on mentors? I will say for school counseling, school psych, and school social work, one of the requirements of doing their clinical experiences in your LEA is that they are doing it under a licensed supervisor that has a profession. So oftentimes they can't do their clinical experience in your LEA unless they have a mentor that can supervise them. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm not seeing any new chats or Q&As. Have you seen anything, Shalise?
Nothing new.
Okay, I will keep going then. All right, and then for the application, we would like to see mentor names or type of mentors, just to know that you do have somebody that can mentor these candidates, because that is important. How much funding you think they're going to need, depending on how many candidates they're mentoring. If you have an idea of who they're going to be mentoring, that would be great. Doesn't have to be set in stone. This can change. And if you don't know specific mentor names, that's fine. We'll still look at your application, but it may not get as high of points as somebody who does have mentor names. And then for the accountability report that's due in October, we do want to know specific information, the names of the candidates, who their mentor is going to be. Do they have a professional license? Do they meet the definition of mentor as described in board rule? And then once we receive your accountability report, there can be changes made, but those changes will have to be approved by our staff before we can move forward on it. So this is kind of the new process. So we've got a link here to some guides on how to access the competitive grant applications in Utah Grants, and then how to submit your application. Louis has been really helpful in providing that information for us, so you can access it there. And then once we receive your applications and we review them and then we've approved it, your application will be created, a grant program will be set up in Utah Grants as a reimbursement program. So you'll need to submit reimbursement requests for funding that has been approved for you. Now, you are welcome to request as much money as you feel like you want or you need to help your candidates. You may not necessarily get awarded that funding. If for some reason we decide we're going to award you a grant application, award your grant application, but not for the full amount, then we will ask you to resubmit your application with an adjusted budget to include the amount that we have awarded you. So once that process has been completed and we've approved it, then you are, then the money will be available. However, we are not going to approve any reimbursement requests in Utah Grants until your accountability report has been submitted and approved. So while it's due in October, if you're wanting to get reimbursed for things before October, then you'll need to submit your accountability report earlier than that. Because when you submit your reimbursement request, what is requested in Utah Grants has to be on your accountability report. They have to match. So if they don't match, we're going to reject it. I got a couple of questions. It says, oh, the links on the slide aren't clickable.
Oh, I shared the link just about that. But the
Okay.
slide deck will be posted on the website with the recording of this presentation.
Then you should be able to click them. And she's trying to get the links in the chat that you can click them there. And then, do Apple candidates qualify for this program? yes, if they already have a bachelor's degree and are just needing to get their license and they want to enroll in an Apple program, they can use Grow Your Own funds to help pay for those expenses. I'm not seeing any other questions.
None in
Okay.
Q&A.
Okay, great. Then if somebody raises their hand, I'm hoping it will pop up and let me know, but so far I don't see anybody raising their hand yet, so. Okay, then I think we're almost done. The Utah grants team will review applications that meet the submission criteria. Awarded LEAs will be notified in July. Oh, this is basically what I just said, that if you get awarded for less the amount, then you'll have to readjust your application budget and resubmit. And then once your accountability report is approved, then we will approve your reimbursement requests for funds paid. So somebody asked if they have grant money from a previous cohort, are they still eligible to apply for this cohort? Yes, you are. However, we are going to be reimbursing you, or we're going to be invoicing you for the amount that you have not spent in a previous cohort. So just watch for that. You are going to have to essentially pay that back, so that we can then apply it to this new cohort. It may not go to you. It may go to somebody else, but so just treat this as kind of a new application process, and we should be fine. Yeah, so any lump sum that we've awarded will also be invoiced if it hasn't been spent. And the amounts that we're using to know whether they've been spent or not is in your accountability report. So make sure your accountability report and your fiscal reports are accurate, because that's where we get all of our amounts from.
Lisa, we do have one in the Q&A. How do we determine if we should go with Grow Your Own versus Apprentice?
There isn't a caveat in the Grow Your Own program that says that they cannot accept apprentice funds. But there might be a caveat in apprentice that says if they qualify for Grow Your Own, they may not qualify for apprentice. And I'm not entirely sure about that.
Maybe that's one we could add to our Q&A document or
Yes.
FAQ. Okay.
Yes, I will look at that.
Those are the questions for now.
Okay, great. Okay, and then just a little bit about the accountability report details. Basically, the purpose of the accountability report is to make sure that candidates participating in this program do meet the definitions and the criteria for the program. So we're asking you only those questions that the board rule and the state code ask us for. And as long as they meet the criteria, then you'll be fine. Basically, if your LEA has changes once, so you'll submit that by October 17th, we'll review it and let you know it's approved. Once it's approved, any changes to that need to be notified by us so that we can review those. And then just make sure that the amounts, so if you, for example, this happens a lot where somebody's approved for $12,000, but they know, you find out after October 17th that they're only going to spend 6,000. And so you're wondering if you can use 6,000 for a new person, or you could give somebody only got 6,000 and is now wanting more than 6,000. That's fine. You can make those changes, but let us know. We'll review it, approve it. And then just remember that they cannot, like, even if they got 12,000, but they need another 6,000, they can't do that if they're in a bachelor's degree program, because they can only have 12,000 a year. And like, those amounts are set in stone and we can't exceed that. And whatever your LEA is awarded, you can't spend more than what your total LEA amount award is. But we will be awarding for the entire cohort. So there is a little bit of flexibility from fiscal year 26 to 27, if that helps. So if you say, well, we're going to spend 30,000 in fiscal year 26 and then 30,000 in fiscal year 27, you can change that amount as long as you don't exceed 60,000 for the whole cohort.
Lisa,
Yes.
Can you just clarify one more time for me? So did I hear you correctly? Somebody asked if Apple candidates qualify for this year?
Mhm.
'Cause previously, anyone with a bachelor's did not. So you're saying that Apple candidates do qualify for this if they have a bachelor's and they're trying to get their initial teacher licensure.
Yes. And I apologize if there was a confusion because Apple candidates have qualified since the beginning.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
but
Okay.
yeah, the definition is that they don't already have a license. So if you have
Okay.
somebody who, um, and they have to have been, like, if they're going to be a future teacher, they have to be a paraprofessional. So if you've got a paraprofessional who's been employed in your LEA for a year and they want to get their license, but they already have a bachelor's degree, you could award them, you could enroll them in your Apple program and help them get their license with Grow Your Own funds. Um, and then once they're awarded the scholarship, they could get hired as a teacher because that's fine, but they can't
Okay.
be hired on if they're already a teacher.
Okay. So if they're an Apple candidate and they're a teacher of record, it's a no-go.
Yes.
Oh, got you. Okay. Okay. That was where sorry, that was where I was confused there. Okay.
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 Yeah, teacher of record
And
at time of grow your own award.
Okay.
yes,
Perfect. Thank you.
sure, no problem. And I understand where that confusion is because until recently, we've had like no paraprofessionals in Apple programs, but that has gradually expanded. Okay, I think we are done. So here's our contact information personally that are overseeing this grant. And then if you send it to the Grow Your Own Educator at schools.utah.gov, we'll also be answering those questions. Basically, the first available person will answer it for you. And
I
then,
just put that in the chat, Lisa.
thank you very much. Any additional questions?
We have one that says, if someone was part of cohort 3, but they only actively participated in the second year, eligible for both years of cohort 4.
Yes, that would be correct. So they can qualify for up to 3 years in the program. Oh, and yeah, there was a question that says we can't use this for a teacher that's already have a professional license and they want to get an endorsement. That is correct. They have, this is for licenses and it's their first initial license. And then Susan, I'll look at the questions about apprentices and I'll try and email that out. And we'll add it to our Q&A. Or frequently asked questions.
Well, and we're just trying to go, okay, do we put them in the grow your own? Or is the apprentice a better way for them to go? And we just went, or can they do both? So I went, I'll just ask.
Yeah. There isn't anything in Grow Your Own that would prevent them from receiving Grow Your Own funding if they're already getting apprenticeship funding. Um, we do ask what kind of other funding they're already getting for school. So you would just mention that. But I'm pretty sure there's something about apprenticeships that if they're getting Grow Your Own funding, they can't be an apprentice. But I will double check.
Thank you.
Okay, any new questions?
Thanks, Kate. We appreciate all you do too. And we also appreciate, I do want to share, I was in a meeting with a national vendor that they're not in Utah. And they started asking questions like, I heard you guys have this Grow Your Own Scholarship program. And I was like, how did you hear about that? Because it's not like we've been advertising it anywhere. So this has been getting a lot of attention. We were kind of surprised that we got additional funding this year because I think some of you know that we thought the program would be done after cohort 3, but no, we're still going. We've got an additional cohort. There's still a lot of support from the legislature and the governor's office for this program. So we know that it's helped a lot of people out, and we're really excited to be here doing another round of applications. So hopefully it's still going to be beneficial to you and your programs. Thanks, Susan. You too. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any additional questions, so I think we're going to call it good. But we will be sending out, we'll try and post the link to the recording on our website, and we'll post the slides there as well. And we'll get an answer to that apprenticeship question and let you know. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful summer holiday. Hopefully you get a holiday.
Lisa, I just thought of another question. Is it too late?
No, go ahead.
I have a candidate who could possibly qualify for this Grow Your Own. And just he has been a para for the last 3 years, but then last year we put his assignment as a teacher, but could go to para again. Would that make him eligible?
Yes, as long as he is a para when he's awarded the scholarship, then he will qualify.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.